I got about 8 job offers. My first day in office, Lehman's went bankrupt.
Lehman Brothers staff arrived at work in London this morning to be told the bank had been put into administration.
So one day you may be losing a couple of $1 million or $3 million, and that's killer. Those people who are thinking that they need not upskill now are going to be left so far behind, it's not even funny. People are underestimating what AI brings onto the table.
What does it bring on the table?
Sales is not about going and pitching instantly about your product. दोनों profit pool में खेलते हैं. If you ask money from 15 friends and only one friend is lending you money, कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ है. It's about starting small, but cold start करना होता है. My nickname in college was
Who were some other entrepreneurs from your batch?
in our batch, if you were a 8-pointer or 8.5 pointer, you were considered to be below average. I wanted to be 2-3 steps ahead of everyone in everything that I was doing at IIT, and it just came naturally to me. DNA में था. Good negotiation, good sales. That's how we built the company as well.
What's your skill set?
Painting on a blank canvas and creating magic. One major skill that I picked up, that is multitasking. If you're down and out, if you just put your mind to it, you can just rise up to be at the top. You wake up and you look at the mirror every single day and you say that, am I really making a difference?
What were you doing when you were 22 years old?
So college days was between 18 and 22, right? So I guess college days were very, very exciting. My nickname in college was Ninja. So it's a combination of Nitin and Jain, and there was a professor in Kota by the name of Nitin Jain, and he was called Ninja. So they nicknamed me Ninja. So I'm not from Kota, but I'm from Delhi itself. So I studied in Delhi all my life, and then I went to IIT Delhi. And so I think there was an apt nickname because people used to also call me Fighter.
Huh.
Right? So I used to be like, I wanted to be 2-3 steps ahead of everyone in everything that I was doing at IIT, and it just came naturally to me. I didn't have to put in too much effort. So I guess, yeah, college was about healthy competition, and it was about learning from just geniuses around me. And our batch was super crazy. Yeah, so they were all like, I think in our batch, if you were a 8 pointer or 8.5 pointer, you were considered to be below average. Yeah, that was the fun bit.
Lovely.
Yeah, so everyone was a 9 pointer. Everyone excelled at pretty much everything that they did. It was fun. Yeah, it was.
आपने पढ़ाई के अलावा और क्या क्या करा था कॉलेज में? Any interesting thing? What is your craziest memory of college days? And you can be completely open. Craziest mean craziest.
Yeah, so as such, कभी crazy किया नहीं था because life was concentrated about just playing a little bit of cricket and spending time in the lab. So you were just discussing ideas, you were just working on very crazy projects, and then you were thinking of very outrageous ideas, and then spending a lot of time over there, spending a lot of time with your friends, with your colleagues, and figuring out new things, and then saying that ये करते हैं, ये कुछ इसको आगे बढ़ाते हैं, and then फोड़ते हैं. So it was all about that. Yeah, and a little bit of extracurricular as well. So I organized a lot of competitions within our tech fest. And Rendezvous में ज़्यादा मैं interested था नहीं cultural fest में, but tech fest के अंदर मेरे को काफी ज़्यादा interest था. Trist, yeah, that's right. So I participated in that and organized a few events as well. So it set up everything, and then got everyone together, got a lot of participation in one of the events. And yeah, it was all about that.
So you didn't do any illegal stuff at your college days?
बहुत कम यार. So ना दारू पी, ना smoking / up down, कुछ नहीं किया. Yeah, I was quite plain vanilla at that point of time. So it was all about just putting in energy in the right stuff.
And has it changed?
It hasn't actually.
Okay.
I'm still the same person. I'm very, very grounded, I feel. I guess others can talk a little bit more about that. I'm not the kind of person who want to fly very high, so I'm just very close to the ground at all levels.
And who were some other entrepreneurs from your batch?
From my batch, actually my batch is quite successful. So most of them landed jobs at investment banking or in Google, Microsoft, etc., and they're now building great stuff. So one of my batchmates is now building a SaaS company called Itilite. And one of my batchmates built Glance, if you've heard of Glance,
yes.
Right? So it's a InBobi company, and then he designed the entire product and got them to, I don't know how many million users now.
Naveen Tiwari?
No, Naveen Tiwari, Rohan Chaudhary works with Naveen Tiwari.
Okay.
So Rohan Chaudhary is the guy I'm talking about. Then there was obviously Pankaj Chadda from my batch as well, who's done brilliantly well. Yeah, I guess these were the guys. And then, one batch up, down, there's a guy building City Mall. And obviously Dipinder is like 3 years senior although I didn't know him very well. Then there is obviously Binny, who's a couple of years senior.
So you were in the vicinity of these smokes?
So coincidentally, Binny's first job was at a company called Sarnoff, and I was interning there at the same time. So that's how I just got to know him, but I don't know him that well, but I just got to know of him.
And your first job right out of your college was Royal Bank of Scotland?
Yeah, that's right.
What were you exactly doing there?
So when I was, when there was placement season, right, I got about 8 job offers, right? So I got job offers from consulting, from banking, from quant companies, from tech companies. And then my thought process was, यार finance में उस time में ना बड़ा जोश था. So everyone was running after finance. This was 2007, the pre-subprime era. So at that point of time, you know, I was brainwashed कि finance ही है, उसमें इतना पैसा कमा लोगे तो मैं 30 के बाद काम करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, 35 के बाद तुम Ferrari चला रहे होगे, yachts पे होंगे and all that. So we got a little bit brainwashed, and I really wanted to go to London to experience this glamorous lifestyle. So I landed up my first job in RBS in London. So went there to do investment banking / trading. And my first job was on the interest rates and credit trading desk. So that was one hell of a job.
And 8 jobs because of the silver medal that you had?
Well, silver medal तो बाद में मिला था.
अच्छा?
Yeah.
Silver medal किसको मिलता है?
So you have a cohort. So I was dual degree, right? So rank 1 को मिलता है silver medal.
तो फिर गोल्ड मेडल किसको मिलता है?
Gold medal मिलता है, institute gold medal होता है वो. Like all across batches, the top guy would get a gold medal.
Oh,
Like, all across streams, he would get a gold medal.
And you were computer science?
I was computer science.
कंप्यूटर साइंस में जॉब लेने का नहीं सोचा आपने?
तो उस टाइम इतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं था.
ठीक है.
I didn't want to go into research. So for me, you know, if you go into computer science, in my mind, it was about being a loner and coding, and then, you know, not working and getting that kind of exposure, right? So it was in computer science, I thought, you know, अकेले बैठ के coding करना होगा, कुछ build करना होगा, and then you'll have to research a lot of problems, etc. So I was not that kind of person. I was a very restless person. I wanted to meet a lot of people, learn a lot, and then be involved in multiple things at the same time. So I thought investment banking was the way for me, or consulting. But consulting में इतना interest नहीं था, because investment banking में actually you can see money moving from here to there instantly. Right? Consulting, you have to go, you have to consult, and then you can see the effects of your labor after a few months or years. But investment banking, you know, whatever you do will be reflected in the next minute or next second. So that was my thought process about selecting investment banking. So I'm a very high results oriented person कि अभी कुछ किया है तो उसका next moment में result दिखना चाहिए.
और जो आपने CFA की जो 3 levels clear करे थे, that was during your college days और वो बाद में करे?
No, वो during my investment banking days.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you were doing intra desk.
No, I was doing credit and interest rate derivatives.
Explain this to a 18-year-old without any, मतलब, who doesn't have any understanding of finance world.
तो simple है. तो अगर आप let's take an example of a big car company, okay? So let's take any name. Let's take Mercedes. Okay, so Mercedes would have a treasury desk. Now they would go and deposit it with a particular bank, okay? And the bank would offer them, let's say, 1.5% interest rate per annum. Now 1.5% interest rate to them was not exciting, right? But what if you clubbed it with a credit product and said that, listen, if Italy defaults, right, then your money is at risk. But if Italy does not default, then we would be able to offer you 2.5%. So you link it to credit, right? So it becomes a credit-linked note, a credit-linked product. So what you're saying is that your money is safe until Italy is alive. So if Italy is alive, we'll continue to pay you 2.5%. So that was a very safe bet for them. Like Italy default करना है, कोई भी sovereign को default करना is a very, very, very big thing. So that is something that we structured. We would link it to other companies. We link it to other large companies, because large companies को भी default करना, it's a very big thing, right? We link it to sovereigns, and then we will give them an uplift on the interest rates that they were earning through the treasuries.
But by definition,
yeah,
bank को अगर आप कोई पैसा देते हो, so it will automatically lend that same money to other folks, right?
But bank would be able to offer you 1.5% only. Right? If you give the money to the bank, you're taking risk on the particular bank. That's all you're doing. So the bank would give you 1.5% per annum on the money that you deposited with the bank.
Right.
But here you're saying that you're linking Italy credit and the bank credit on that particular money. So either of them default, your money is at risk, else your money is safe. So you're linking Italy credit as well. So hence you're paying up a little bit more premium.
And it's always linked to a sovereign or a country, or
no, it may be linked to anything. It may be linked to certain other derivatives, certain other stocks, for example, right? So if the stocks move here, there, and if the stocks drop by this level, so you can make it as complex as you want.
And can I choose what particular company or what particular sovereign I want to associate?
Yeah, 100%. So we would present options to them, and they would be like, okay, fine, we don't mind this, we don't like this, we want to go with this, because there was the Greece default aspect also at that point of time. So no one chose Greece really, right? Unless they wanted to take a huge financial bet, unless they were willing to gamble. So it was always about choosing one of the safer sovereigns. So safer sovereigns so Germany would not yield much, because Germany was the safest sovereign out there. It was the safest sovereign, right? Then there was the US, which was very safe, but there was a issue about technical default because they keep growing the balance sheet left, right, and center. Then there was UK, which was very safe as well. So there were these countries like Italy, Spain, and a couple of other countries in and around that area, which used to have a slightly lower credit rating. Hence, you had to pay up if you were linking it to that particular sovereign. So I think companies were interested in linking those countries, and they were not concerned, because if you have a fiat, right? So it's Italy based, right? So it's domiciled in Italy. So they don't mind linking it to their sovereign, because they know that if their sovereign goes bust, they will go bust.
Does it happen till now as well?
Abhi bhi hota hai, and it can be as complex as you want or as vanilla as you want.
7 years you spent in London.
Yeah.
Or just before the Lehman crisis, right?
No. So not just before the Lehman crisis. My first day in office, Lehman's went bankrupt. My first day in office.
So you joined in 2007, Lehman happened?
No, so 2007 was my placement process. 2008 is when I joined the bank.
Day one?
Yes, day one.
How was the heat? Did you?
Yeah, it was crazy. Fifth day in office, Merrill Lynch got bought over by Bank of America. I think 10th day in office, RBS was 84% sold to the government of UK. 3 months into my job, about what 80% of my desk got wiped out. They got fired.
आप कैसे बच गए?
So I think they didn't want to fire a newcomer because my salary kam thi. So they were like, ठीक है, देखते हैं. And then, so I guess they couldn't really hire and fire. Would have set a bad precedent in the market, but they were like, ठीक है, let's. It was only 3 months into the job, so they couldn't, I guess, fire you immediately after hiring you. So and salary was also less, so they didn't care about me. So they were culling jobs left, right, and center for the high paid employees so that they could get the cost down.
You spent 7 years there.
Yeah.
Tell us certain hard skills and soft skills that you picked up during that time.
Yeah. So one major skill that I picked up that is still with me at the moment and that's helping me out is multitasking. So when you're in a banking job, you have to look at 8 screens at the same time, right? एक screen में कुछ चल रहा होगा, दूसरी screen में कुछ चल रहा होगा, तीसरी screen में entirely different चीज चल रही होगी. So everything has to be processed by you at the same time, right? So you become very good at multitasking. In general, whichever investment banker I've met, they're very good at multitasking, very good at processing multiple informations, right? So if I'm talking to you and someone else is speaking to someone else over there, so I would be able to process that as well. I would be conversing with you properly, and I would be able to process that particular conversation, and I would be able to make sense of it. Yeah. So that's one skill that really has helped me out.
And what were some blunders or some interesting stories happened during your investment banking days that kind of shaped you, or which had a huge impact on your way of thinking and stuff?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can speak a lot about that, but no, actually, just for just because I'm protected, I think I have to be careful about whatever I speak, because it's all confidential at that point of time. So, but obviously there are ups and downs that you see, right? Huge amounts of ups and downs. So one day you may be losing a couple of $1 million or $3 million, and that's killer, right? And then at one day you'll be up like $4 or $5 million, and then you'll be like, oh, the best thing ever. So you have your huge amounts of ups and downs. It's never a stable curve, right? It's never a linear curve as well. It's always a sine curve, right? So it's always up. You have the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. So some days you come home and say that, yeah, I don't have the energy to go back to office anymore, and then I want to quit and I want to just give it up. And some days you're like, this is the best job ever, right? So it's about, so those are some of the things that I've gone through, and it was fun.
Skipping forward, day 0 of business. How did you end up meeting Ashish?
Yeah, so after 7 years, I was like, मैं क्या value add कर रहा हूँ यार, मतलब ultimately so I'm moving money from one place to the other effectively and taking some commission in the middle for the bank. Right? That's all you're doing in investment banking, and that's all investment banking is. So you're not really adding too much value on the ground. You're not creating a large enough impact. वही 20, 30, 40 client होते हैं जिसके जरिए तुम आप काम कर रहे होते हो investment banking के अंदर, but उसके beyond scope is difficult, right? So you grow very linearly in that respect. So that's when I started thinking about India, because India is 1.5 billion population. It's the largest consumption in the world. So then obviously, I mean, I guess US is slightly larger, I guess, in terms of actual value, but the number of people consuming, it's far greater than and they're consuming everything. They're consuming, from internet to FMCG products to a lot of other things. So I think at that point of time, India had started coming onto the startup sector, right? This was around 2015. So I was on the lookout, and then in a common IIT group, someone posted that, listen, Ashish is looking for a co-founder. He wants someone in tech. So then I told the guy, please connect me. Although I know nothing about tech now, it's been 7 years after IIT. Why don't you just connect me? So me and Ashish got speaking, and then on the phone we just hit it off.
Do you remember who connected you?
Yeah, it was a good friend by the name of Rajat Sani. He's still a good friend. He was my classmate.
Got it.
Yeah, he connected us.
I am seeing this pattern across many folks from the world of finance.
Yeah.
वो बोलते हैं हम पहले बहुत सारा पैसा कमाते हैं और फिर हमको we have वो होता है, फिर हम सारे पाप धुने अलग अलग फील्ड में जाते हैं, then we try to figure out कि हम किस लिए बने हैं, and then all that stuff. ऐसा क्यों होता है?
Yeah, I guess it gives you a little bit of security blanket, right? So you earn a little bit of money to keep you secure in some sense. So if once you have a security blanket, the ability to take risks goes up exponentially.
And you also get up in the Maslow's hierarchy, so आप self-actualization में आते हो, and then you try to find meaning in what you do.
You can say that. I never thought of it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, you can probably say that. But then, you want to create something impactful. I think and it hits you from within. You wake up and you look at the mirror every single day and you say that, am I really making a difference?
Mr. Sani connected you with
Ashish.
What happened then?
So I spoke to him and he said, I told him, मेरे को tech वैक कुछ नहीं आता, तू बता आप क्या करना है. वो कहता है एक बार इंडिया आ जा. So I flew down for 1 day to India from the UK. Right, so met him and Ruchi at Cafe Coffee Day.
In Gurgaon?
In Green Park.
ठीक है.
Still remember the table where we were sitting. Still remember Ruchi was pregnant at that point of time, and Ashish, Ashish could sense the energy in them, and especially Ashish. When I was speaking to him, it was just very charismatic and infectious. That energy. So we spoke for about 6 hours then, and then we drank some 10, 12 coffees, and I was like completely convinced at that point of time, and he was one of the best salesmen I'd seen, and I just instantly said, हाँ बता कब आना है, and he was like, तू immediately जा, resign कर और आजा. Right, so that's how it happened. I went back. I came here on Friday. I went back on Sunday. Monday I resigned, and that's how it began.
What was the idea?
The idea was that B2B में कुछ बनाएंगे. Idea clear ही नहीं था. बस B2B में बनाना है. बहुत बड़ा sector है. Figure out कर लेंगे.
6 घंटे क्या बात करी वो बताओ थोड़ा.
6 घंटे बस एक दूसरे के बारे में बात करी, and just समझा कि इंडिया इकोसिस्टम में हो क्या रहा है, कि कितनी बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है. द अपॉर्चुनिटी इज मैसिव. अब क्या बनाना है, कैसे बनाना है, हमने सोचा वो बाद में फिगर आउट कर लेते हैं. बस B2B सेक्टर के अंदर कुछ करना है, ये डन था.
Why B2B?
क्योंकि कोई कर नहीं रहा था उस टाइम पे. उस टाइम पे अगर आप स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में देखो तो कौन कौन था, मैं गिनती से नाम बता सकता हूँ. देयर वाज Zomato, there was Swiggy had just started, I guess. There was Myntra, there was Jabong, Amazon had just about entered. There was Flipkart. Flipkart had been existing for the past, I guess, 6-7 years. So ये सब थे. ये सब क्या थे? B2C companies थे. They were all about targeting the individual consumers. But was there someone making anything for the SME ecosystem? गिनती से 1 या 2 companies थी. There was Industry Buying, there was IndiaMart and Tolexo, same company. And that's pretty much it. There was no one else. So we said, इतना बड़ा space है, इसमें figure out करते हैं opportunity क्या क्या है. And that's how it started.
Coming back to India, ठीक है. B2B space में करना है, समझ में आ गया. How did you end up figuring? Walk us through that process. B2B से यही चीज़ करना है, कैसे करी?
1 साल लगा figure out करने में.
2015 से 16.
हाँ, 2015 सितंबर में हमने effectively incorporate करी थी. 30th September I remember when I landed in India. 1st October is when I started. So September-ish या अक्टूबर में आप कह सकते हो, हम सब एक साथ आए थे कि एक कमरे में बैठे हुए थे, सोचना स्टार्ट किया था. एंड 1 साल लग गया था till next November to really understand कि हम exist क्यों कर रहे हैं. हाथ पाँव मार के सेल्स कर रहे थे, बट वो हमारा वाई डिफाइन नहीं कर पा रहा था स्टिल. आप सेल्स कर लेते हो, आप बेच लेते हो जाके कुछ. मैं बताऊंगा कैसे क्या बेच रहे थे ऑल दैट, बट आप कुछ बेच रहे थे. बट क्यों बेच रहे हो, किस लिए बेच रहे हो, क्या करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, वो हमें एक साल लगा था डिफाइन करने के लिए. बट दैट्स ओके, दैट्स द जर्नी ऑफ अ स्टार्टअप, राइट? यू कांट फिगर आउट एवरीथिंग ऑन डे वन, अदरवाइज one, there is no fun, and second, if you got everything figured out, anyone else can do it easily as well. So एक साल लगा था फिगर आउट करने में कि क्या करेंगे, एंड वो ग्राउंड पे उतर के फिगर आउट किया था. बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ी थी. तो अबाउट literally every single day from 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, we were out there on the field, and we used to come back at like 8 o'clock in the evening. And then again sit and discuss. From 8 to 12 we were discussing in office, and then after that we came home. Again the thought process was क्या कर सकते हैं और क्या कर सकते हैं, कैसे करना है. And then again back on the field. So we used to spend a lot of time on the field just to figure out clients' problems कि क्या चाहते क्या वो.
एक स्टेप पीछे आते हैं. 5 co-founder. It's a unique combination, right?
Yeah.
Generally 1 होता है, 2 होता है, 3 होते हैं, 4 होते हैं, कई बार 5 भी होते हैं. How did you end up figuring कि यार 5 लोगों के साथ करना है? How did you get the other, Ashish and Ruchi were together? You got it. And then how did you convince?
It was about getting people with different skill sets, right? So Ashish had a very risk and a profit risk mindset, and Ruchi had a very process oriented mindset कि operations strong होना चाहिए, process होना चाहिए. Process finance she was very strong in. She had done a lot of finance in McKinsey. I had a slightly cowboyish mindset of scale थोड़ा सा वो मेरे दिमाग में था कि scale बड़ा होना चाहिए, scale at any cost, right? So that was my mindset. Then there was Bhuvan, who was a hardcore techie. Vasant had a very operational and a little bit of sales mindset as well, but he had a very operational mindset. So that's how we got everyone together with the diverse skill set and said that areas करते हैं और फिर फोड़ते हैं.
And how was the equity splitting talk? How did you guys end up deciding कि यार?
That Ashish decided, right? So that was Ashish's sort of prerogative to get everyone together to have the equity split so that everyone's really bought into the game. So that was his prerogative.
And was there any framework that was used, or it was like यार 5 जने बना रहे, it was all equal?
It's never equal, right? So it's obviously the guy Ashish came up with the idea and so on and so forth. So it was his prerogative, to split the equity. But it was such that everyone was pretty happy at the beginning.
At the beginning?
Till now as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
So उसके बाद आपने बताया B2B में करना है. What were you selling? 1 साल. Help me understand. 1 साल आपने क्या करा?
या 1 साल हम गए क्लाइंट के पास. सबसे पहले हमने फिगर आउट किया
किसका क्लाइंट?
एसएमईज के पास गए. हमने स्टार्ट किया गुंटूर से. अब गुंटूर से क्यों स्टार्ट किया? हमारे पास एंजल इन्वेस्टर थे वहाँ पे जो हमारी मदद करने के लिए रेडी हो गए थे. देयर वाज एंजल इन्वेस्टर बाय द नेम ऑफ मिस्टर संजीव रंगरास.
हाँ.
एंड मिस्टर आई थिंक सायर रेड्डी वाज हिज नेम. दे वर बोथ एट आईटीसी. सो हम उनके पास चले गए कि यार अपनी कॉन्टैक्ट बुक खोल दो, हमें कनेक्ट करा दो सबसे, फिगर आउट करते हैं. तो गए हम लोगों से मिलने, एंड वो फिगर आउट किया कि यार गुंटूर में स्टील खरीद रहे हैं तो आसपास से लोगों से खरीद रहे हैं. हमने कहा कि देखो हैदराबाद से ट्राई कर लेते हैं. तो मैं हैदराबाद गया, मैं सप्लायर के ऑफिस में बैठा, मैंने क्लाइंट को फ़ोन मिलाया कि आपको स्टील कितने में मिल रहा है. उसने बोला XYZ रेट में मिल रहा है. मैं सप्लायर से पूछा कितने में देगा. उसने बोला यार इतने रेट में दूंगा. मेरे को स्ट्रेट 6% का डिफरेंस लगा. मैंने उसी समय डील क्लोज कर दी.
स्टील पे कैसे आए आप?
इट जस्ट हैपेंड दैट हम स्टील पे आए. हम क्लाइंट के साथ बैठे हुए थे, हम उससे पूछ रहे थे कि अच्छा बता अपना प्रोसेस क्या है, क्या करता क्या है. सो ये मैं स्टील लेता हूँ, मैं सीमेंट लेता हूँ. दे वर बिल्डिंग 20 फ्लैट अपार्टमेंट.
ठीक है.
Right, because a lot of families were moving from Hyderabad to Guntur at that point of time. So a lot of construction activity was going on. So हम गए, and just so happened that first few contacts that we met were all real estate developers, were all builders. So हमने उनसे पूछना शुरू किया क्या लेते हो. तो उन्होंने बोला स्टील लेते हैं, सीमेंट लेते हैं, रोड़ी लेते हैं, ये लेते हैं, वो लेते हैं. तो just so happened that उसको 100 टन सरिये की रिक्वायरमेंट थी. At that time I think steel was close to about 30 or 35 rupees per kg. So the total order value was about 35 lakhs. सो सप्लाई के पास बैठा मैंने कहा हैदराबाद से सोर्स करके लेके आते हैं. नहीं हुआ फिर फिगर आउट करेंगे कुछ और. उसको एक्स प्राइस में मिल रहा था. मैंने यहाँ सप्लायर से बोला उसको X - 6% पे वो मुझे दे रहा था, लॉजिस्टिक्स इंक्लूडेड. तो मैंने कहा करते हैं, डन. ठीक है. तो दैट्स हाउ इट स्टार्टेड.
इंटरेस्टिंगली लेटर आपने रियल एस्टेट में थोड़ा सा कम कर दिया था बिकॉज ऑफ, बट यू स्टार्टेड विद रियल एस्टेट.
वी स्टार्टेड बिकॉज दे वर रेडी टू पे अस एडवांस एज वेल. हमने उनको प्राइस जो दिया, दे वर फ्लैबरगैस्टेड यार हमें डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर से नहीं मिल रहा, तुम कैसे लेके आ रहे हो. मैंने कहा सर ट्राई करो. एंड दे वर थ्रू अ कॉन्टैक्ट, सो दे न्यू दैट दिस गाइज विल नॉट, they're not frauds.
ठीक है.
क्योंकि इस इंडस्ट्री में फ्रॉड बहुत चलता है. So they knew these are young guys trying to make things happen, and then that's how we started. That was the first order we picked up.
35 lakhs.
35 lakhs, and that was crazy, right? And that's how we started.
what all did you do apart from that order? What were the other things that you were trying? I'm sure you did not try with this only. आपने और भी चीजें
और भी चीज़ें करी हमने. बात फिटिंग्स वगैरह के अंदर गए हम. थोड़ा सा ग्लास वूल करके होता था वो ट्राई किया. काफ़ी कुछ ट्राई किया बट हमने लगा यार कि वो करते हैं जिसमें ईजी फुट इन द डोर है. तो स्टील में फुट इन द डोर था.
कैसे क्यों?
सिर्फ तो स्टील वॉल्यूमेट्रिक आइटम है एंड कमोडिटाइज आइटम है. बाकी सब कमोडिटाइज नहीं है ना. आप जाओगे स्पेसिफिक थोड़ा पैरामीटर्स हो जाते हैं उसके. अब बात फिटिंग कमोडिटाइज तो है नहीं. अब बात फिटिंग स्पेसिफिक आपको बात फिटिंग्स वगैरह होंगी. राइट. हमने 1-2 लाख 3-4 लाख के ऑर्डर्स उठाए. उसमें थोड़ा पैसा भी कमाया बट इट वॉज नॉट कमोडिटाइज. सो वी वांटेड टू डू समथिंग विच हैड वेरी गुड स्केल एंड स्टील हमें ईजिली दिखा कि कमोडिटाइज है.
1 साल जो शुरुआत में करा सिर्फ स्टील पे काम करा.
मेनली स्टील पे काम किया. मेनली TMT में वो भी. एंड प्लेट्स. वी डिड प्लेट्स एज वेल.
वाई?
राइट. बिकॉज त्रिची में हमने एक और चीज़ फिगर आउट करी कि यार हम एग्रीगेट करते हैं सारे क्लाइंट से. कोई 100 टन ले रहा है, कोई 50 टन ले रहा है. एग्रीगेट करके देखते हैं कि हम
बाइंग पावर कितनी,
बाइंग पावर हम कर सकते हैं. सो वी मैनेज टू डू दैट अ लिटिल बिट. राइट. सो वी मैनेज टू क्रिएट. सो बाय इन 1 year वी वर एट अबाउट 15-16 crores पर मंथ ऑफ रेवेन्यू.
और बेसिकली आइडिया वाज था कि टुगेदर स्मॉल डिमांड्स उससे बाइंग पावर जनरेट करके वी लेवरेज इट फ्रॉम द बिगर सप्लायर्स and then provide them at a cheaper cost. 2016 happened. What was the next thing?
But during that time, every month we were starting from zero. Sales were starting from zero. Again, we had to put in that effort. Client के पास जाके फिर, it was more of a push sales. It was never pull. So then we realized that this is a credit market. There are only 0.001% users जो advance में काम करते हैं. बाकी सब लोग, 99.99% of the SMEs would want credit.
क्योंकि पहले वो रॉ मटेरियल लेंगे, प्रोसेस करेंगे, बेचेंगे,
फिर उनको पैसा आएगा
और फिर वो आपको अपने
फिर हमें देंगे. सो देन वी स्टार्टेड फिगरिंग आउट यार ये चल क्या रहा है. मतलब सिर्फ एडवांस में करने में तो पुश सेल्स होगी. इससे बड़ी कंपनी तो बनेगी नहीं. इससे धंधा तो बनेगा नहीं. देन वी स्टार्टेड सीइंग दैट डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स वर ओनली ऑफरिंग 15-20 days of credit. वी सेड दैट लिसन व्हाई डोंट एंड बैंक्स ऑफर longer credit, right? Because they offer CCOD lines which has to be rotated in 90 days, 120 days, 150 days. We said that listen, why don't we combine the two together? बैंक्स को मटेरियल देने में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, पैसा देने में इंटरेस्ट है. डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को पैसा देने में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, मटेरियल देने में इंटरेस्ट है. एंड बोथ आर इनहेरेंटली प्रॉफिटेबल बिजनेसेस. अब डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर फेल इसलिए होते हैं स्पेकुलेट करते हैं. हमने कहा स्पेकुलेशन नहीं करेंगे हम. बैंक्स बहुत कम फेल होते हैं. उनका तो मेन जॉब लेंडिंग होता है. दे कॉल्ड लेंडर्स.
राइट.
दे नॉट कॉल्ड डिपॉजिट टेकर्स. डिपॉजिट टेकर्स नहीं कहते हैं, उससे पैसे नहीं कमाते बैंक्स. बैंक्स लेंडिंग से ही पैसा कमाते हैं. सो इनहेरेंटली वो भी प्रॉफिटेबल है. हमने कहा यार लेंडिंग का धंधा तो प्रॉफिटेबल है. मटेरियल का धंधा भी प्रॉफिटेबल नहीं तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स एग्जिस्ट नहीं करते हैं. तो दोनों को कंबाइन कर देते हैं ना. दोनों प्रॉफिट पूल में खेलते हैं. राइट. एंड द सेल्स विल बिकम ईजियर. सो वी वुड गो टू द क्लाइंट, वी वुड असेस देयर बैलेंस शीट्स, बैंक स्टेटमेंट्स एक्सेट्रा, ऑफर देम अ लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट and also start supplying material to them. So we're solving two problems at the same time for the client as well.
The idea of aggregating demand and getting it at a better price comes intuitive. पैसा कहाँ से लेके आते थे आप? And how did you figure out the compliance part and how did you figure out कि आप जो line of credit?
Initially तो हमने equity जो raise करी थी उसी को लगा रहे थे.
The money that was in your bank, you were giving that as.
We were giving that as credit, right? And later on, what we did was we partnered with a few NBFCs. We said आप credit दो, हम आपको थोड़ा सा risk assurance दे देंगे. It's called first loss default guarantee, etc. And then over a period of time, we started going to banks, and banks started taking our equity as collateral and giving us debt on top of it. Right? 1:1 से start किया. Then they started to hypothecate the portfolio that we have and started lending us more. And that's how it started. So we started leveraging a little bit more, and that's how we started growing.
Got it. And this is probably 2016.
16-17 की बात.
16-17 की बात है जब when you combine.
And then we said NBFC license लेते हैं हम. 17 के अंदर NBFC license भी ले लिया था हमने.
इतना easy था उस वक्त?
Easy नहीं था. It took us about 6-8 months to get the NBFC license.
How hard it? Because later it became hard to get an NBFC license.
Well, that was because a lot of frauds have started happening. NBFCs were used for the wrong reasons. But when we started, it was pretty. I mean, we pushed the right levers at every point of time. We, gave the right information to whatever RBI wanted, and we gave them information quite quickly. And then we had the right set of people as well, right? So right pedigree. So we got the NBFC license relatively faster. Yeah, took us 6 months though.
इस चीज में when you are doing, help me understand कि 5 लोग कैसे क्या काम कर रहे हैं. How big is the team? How were you building the team? What were some other challenges जो आपने पहले 1-2 साल में?
देखो जो पहले काम कर रहे थे अब जो काम कर रहे हैं उसमें काफ़ी डिफरेंस है. राइट. सो इनिशियली जो हम काम कर रहे थे, मेरा काम था सेल्स लेके आना. राइट. मेरा काम था एक्चुअली नॉर्थ और वेस्ट से सारा सेल्स लेके आना. एक और जो वसंत था उसका काम था साउथ से सेल्स लेके आना. राइट. ऑपरेशन साथ में इंटरमिंगल्ड था कि तुम सेल्स भी लेके आ रहे हो तो ऑप्स भी थोड़ा संभालो और सप्लायर्स भी ले आओ साथ में. एंड आशीष वाज डूइंग अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ सेल्स बट ही वाज आल्सो डूइंग रिस्क मैनेजमेंट कि पैसा कहाँ एलोकेट करना है, कहाँ नहीं करना है. रुचि वाज ऑल अबाउट कंट्रोल ऑफ फाइनेंस कि कहीं पैसा लीक तो नहीं हो रहा, प्रोसेसेस ठीक हैं, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. एंड भुवन वाज मैनेजिंग द टेक. सो दिस इज हाउ इनिशियल रोल्स वर स्ट्रक्चर्ड. So over a period of time, now Vasant is managing the sales, Ashish is managing the risk, and he's obviously the CEO. Ruchi is managing the finances and operations, and Bhuvan managing the tech. And I have become the 0 to 1 incubating businesses, building up to a certain level and handing over. So I've become that guy.
Got it. And you're also the chief business officer.
Well, yeah. So I'm the starter of new initiatives, and then I hand it over. So that's what I like doing as well.
How do you do that?
So blank canvas से शुरू करते हैं, फिगर आउट करते हैं कि कहाँ पे वैल्यू बनेगी अब नेक्स्ट. तो वो that's what I really like.
Then there is this startup called O Agri farm.
That was actually started by me in 2020. Right? So we conceptualized it. जब कोविड में बैठे हुए थे, घर में कुछ करने को था नहीं, हमने कहा कि यार नई वैल्यू देखते हैं, कहाँ से बिल्ड कर सकते हैं हम वैल्यू. तो हमने देखा यार एग्री सेक्टर तो बहुत बड़ा है, हमने स्टील ऑलरेडी मचा दी है, हमने थोड़ा बहुत पॉलीमर्स भी करा था. हमने कहा यार एग्री में क्यों नहीं कर सकते, इतना बड़ा मार्केट, more than $1 trillion वर्ल्ड वाइड, इट इज मैसिव, उसमें करके देखते हैं. And then model worked there also.
How did you start? What was the insight? What were you doing exactly?
So I spoke to about 500 people to get the insights. घर में बैठ के, right? मेरे को भी कोविड हो गया था, तो उस टाइम पे लगा था क्या करें, बस जूम कॉल्स करते रहे, बात करते लोग.
कौन लोग थे ये सारे?
ये सारे रैंडम, कोई ट्रेडर था, कोई डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर था, कोई मिल ओनर था, कोई थोड़ा फार्मर से तो नहीं बात कर पाया था उस टाइम पे, बट मंडी लेवल पे बात कर पाए थे.
पूछते क्या थे अपन से?
जस्ट जनरली धंधा कैसे चलता है, करते क्या हो, बस यही पूछते थे.
And they were happy enough to.
Yeah, it was a way of asking questions as well, so non-intrusive. But yeah, it's about explaining your business first so that they get more comfortable, and then they used to explain their business. So I used to do it very transparent.
And how do you ask the question in a non-intrusive way? Tell me that as well.
The way you do it is that explain to them about yourself very transparently. Open up your books, then they will open up their books. So if I tell you a lot about myself and deep insights about myself, then you will open up to telling me a lot about yourself as well. Right? If I'm very cagey, I don't tell you anything, then you would also become very cagey, and then I would not get anything out of you. So that's how you do it. That's something that I keep telling entrepreneurs as well. किसी के पास कोई आइडिया होता है, वो कहते हैं यार मैं आइडिया तुम्हारे साथ शेयर करूंगा, तुम चुरा लोगे, तुम ये कर लोगे, वो कर लोगे, and then you don't get out something out of the other person as well. It's not about the idea, it's about the execution.
Right.
It's not about the idea. Ideas are dime a dozen. It's about how you execute on the ground that matters.
500 लोगों से आपने बात करी कि भाई धंधा कैसे चल रहा है.
हाँ.
What was the core insight that you were able to form?
Core insight था कि जो हम धंधा चला रहे थे क्रेडिट प्लस मटेरियल सप्लाई वाला, वो इसमें भी बन सकता है.
एग्री में भी बन सकता है.
पहले हमारे लिए बहुत नेगेटिव सेक्टर था. हमने कहा एग्री नहीं, यहाँ पे तो बहुत फ्रॉड होता है, यहाँ पे तो पैसे डूब जाएंगे, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा. बट बाद में जाके फिगर आउट हुआ यार ये सेम धंधा वहाँ पे रेप्लिकेट कर सकते हैं.
इसमें आप क्या चीज़ कहाँ से लेके किसको दे रहे थे?
हमने स्टार्ट किया था ट्रेडर से लेकर मिल को देना, जो प्रोसेसिंग मिल थी, हु इज मेकिंग लेट्स से आटा, वो गेहूँ लेते थी, राइट, उसको देना स्टार्ट किया. हमने मिल को देना स्टार्ट किया गेहूँ. हमने पहले ट्रेडर से लेकर स्टार्ट किया, फिर हमने मंडी पे गए, मंडी से लेकर देना स्टार्ट किया. देन हमने रियलाइज किया कि नॉर्थ से मंडी से लोगे, आप नॉर्थ की मिल को सप्लाई करोगे, उसमें मार्जिन वगैरह नहीं है. हमने नॉर्थ से लेकर साउथ में सप्लाई करना शुरू किया.
तो मार्जिन कैसे बन रहा था?
साउथ में तो वीट उगती नहीं है ना. सो देन यू एग्रीगेट डिमांड फ्रॉम द साउथ फ्रॉम मल्टीपल मिल्स, एंड देन यू गो एंड फिल अप योर रेक, ट्रेन का रेक फ्रॉम द नॉर्थ फ्रॉम वेरियस मंडीज. दैट्स हाउ यू डू इट.
एंड इसमें आपने मंडी पे आप क्यों रुक गए? आपने सोचा नहीं कि हम डायरेक्ट फार्मर से सोर्स कर लेंगे?
नहीं यार, तो यू कांट डू एवरीथिंग एट द सेम टाइम, राइट, एंड इट्स नॉट गुड बिकॉज यू विल एंड अप बर्निंग योर फिंगर्स, योर मनी, एवरीथिंग. सो डू इट स्टेप बाय स्टेप. स्टार्टिंग में ट्रेडर से लो, उसके बाद धीरे धीरे मंडी से जाओ. एंड फार्मर से लेने में इशू ये है, फार्म लॉज आर नॉट दैट क्लियर बिकॉज यू हैव टू पे मंडी टैक्स. तो फार्मर से लोगे, मंडी टैक्स वेट करोगे तो कुछ ना कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है आपको. So it's not straightforward. So we preferred going to the mandis and taking them because there was enough and more margin to be made, volume to be made. So we said farmer वाला angle बाद में figure out करेंगे.
थोड़ा सा पीछे आ जाते हैं. आपने how was the team building process? How was the fundraising process? What was the challenges in the initial 1 or 2 years?
पहला जो second fundraise था हमारा, उसमें बहुत प्रॉब्लम हुई. प्रॉब्लम ये हुई कि किसी को कॉमर्स प्लस फाइनेंस का मॉडल समझ ही नहीं आ रहा था. बहुत समझाने की कोशिश करी कि यार दोनों कंबाइन होकर बहुत बड़ी कंपनी बन सकती है. किसी को समझ ही नहीं आ रहा था कि कभी किसी ने दुनिया में देखा नहीं था, या तो सिर्फ फाइनेंस देखा था या सिर्फ कॉमर्स देखा था, राइट. तो कंबाइंड मॉडल किसी ने नहीं देखा था, स्पेशली इन द रॉ मटेरियल स्पेस. सो देयर वाज नो कंपेरेबल. आप देखते हो यार उसमें ये हुआ था तो इसकी वजह से इसमें भी ये होगा. right? इतने revenue multiple पे डालूंगा या इतने पे डालूंगा तो हो जाएगा. So there was no comparable. So it was very difficult for us to convince them कि यार this model works. There was no comparable in China, there was no comparable in the US, there was no comparable in Germany, India में तो था ही नहीं. So that was one of the biggest challenges. And the team was not experienced in the sectors. ऐसा नहीं था कि we all came with like 20 years experience in the steel sector or 15 years experience in the steel sector. All of us were starting in the steel sector, effectively from scratch. So we had less experience, although we had gained a lot of knowledge by speaking to, so many people. So that was one other challenge that the investors faced. But then...
How did you eventually end up solving this?
So yeah, it was...
Gaining the confidence?
When we spoke to the investors, we gave them so many insights about the business. And after being rejected by many investors, one investor decided to back us. The investor name was Zodius, right? So they decided to back us, and that's how it began. And that's how we began a hyper growth journey.
Hyper growth journey. How did you start that?
So hyper growth journey में उसके बाद 16 करोड़ महीने कर रहे थे. Then we figured out the business model. We got the investment in, and then we went berserk कि यार this works, and we literally मतलब मैं अकेले जाके sales कर रहा था. And imagine we were doing 16 crores a month. At that point of time, we used to pick up one order which was 5 to 6 crores. एक order 5-6 crore का उठाने लग गए. And that's how we knew यार इसमें scale है.
और स्पेसिफिक आपने इंडस्ट्री कौन सी इंडस्ट्री के लिए काम करना है और कहाँ से स्टील में क्या
सोर्स करना है. तो we started gaining expertise. हमने सिर्फ स्टील में concentrate किया पहले 3-4 साल. सिर्फ स्टील को देखा और किसी को देखा नहीं.
How did you gain expertise in steel? Tell us some insights that you formed during those years.
Only way you can gain insights, real dhanda insights, is by spending time on the field, by talking to promoters, by talking to contractors, by talking to even the mistris. We used to spend time with every level, and that's how we gain insights.
इसमें जो आपने बताया हाइपर ग्रोथ जो ब्लिट्ज स्केलिंग करी आपने करी फर्स्ट यू वर द पर्सन जो आप जाके सप्लायर को सेल कर रहे थे उसके बाद हाउ डिड यू एंड अप बिल्डिंग दैट टीम फॉर दैट स्केल कि यार
No, so क्या होता है कि initial we were very clear that everyone had to be individual contributor before building any team. Very clear. So we used to hire people who were ready to be individual contributors.
व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय दैट
So यार 3 levels होते हैं growth के. First, you always start as an individual contributor. Then you become a team manager so that you can manage people and so on and so forth, but you're doing sales at that point of time as well. Then you become a leader, right? Team manager और leader में बहुत difference होता है. Leader में then you can set vision and then you can really talk about the vision and you're not just a vision follower, but you're also a vision maker. So there are 3 levels. So initially we were very clear that जिसको भी हम hire करेंगे team manager तो छोड़ो individual contributor होगा.
एवरीबडी हैज
Everyone start from scratch. That was the initial thesis and that really worked. So we used to hire really hungry guys. From let's say I am Rohtak or I am Udaipur or I am Trichy, and we used to just give them blank canvas and they used to create magic. That's what we felt.
और 2017 से 18 how was the scene like? Walk us through the numbers of business.
So 16 में we were doing 16 crores a month. 17 में we jumped to about let's say 45 crores a month. 18 में we started touching 60 crores, and then 19 में we used to do about 80 to 100 crores a month.
And this is geographical expansion, this is industry expansion. Where is the growth coming from?
So growth was coming from going deep into the clusters we were in. So हमने north में we opened a few clusters like भिवाड़ी खोल दिया, फरीदाबाद खोल दिया, तो उसके अंदर बड़े deep जाना शुरू कर दिए, right? And then once we got a decent scale, then only we used to touch another cluster. Until then, we were going deep into one cluster.
How do you go deep into a cluster of, let's say, Faridabad or a Bhiwani?
फरीदाबाद में एक दो क्लाइंट से स्टार्ट किया.
हाँ.
उन्हीं से रेफरेंसेस लिए कि आसपास बताओ आप जिनको जानते हो. फिर उनके पास गए because going to clients with references has a much easier in.
Basic level of trust is created. That somebody.
Absolutely, that's very important. Just going cold calling, we used to do that as well, by the way, when we ran out of references. Cold calling does work, but we used a lot of references and a lot of tricks.
Yeah. Walk me through that tricks.
So tricks, बड़ा funny होता है. So you pick any big name and then you cold call another person and say that आपका उन्होंने reference दिया था जी, उनके MD ने reference दिया था. He's like, oh अच्छा, ठीक है. मैंने कहा सर टाइम चाहिए आपसे, उनके साथ काम करें, आपके साथ भी हम मिलना चाहते हैं. We can do a lot with you as well. He said अच्छा आ जाओ, इस समय आ जाओ. And then we used to go and then we used to crack the deal. That's how it happened.
Got it. What were some other things that you used to do in your early days?
Yeah, so sales is not about going and pitching instantly about your product. Sales is about going and doing 1 hour of pure buck in the beginning, right? Just forming a relationship with the client. And just talking about anything and everything. Because the client, what we felt was, so bored of speaking to your regular distributors, they were not getting any intellectual stimulation done. So we used to go, and we were obviously from a decent pedigree, etc., right? All of us, and even the sales guys that we hired. So we used to go and spend 1 hour just talking about, general, not even about the business, but general economy or, the sector and so on and so forth, just stimulating their intellectual curiosity. And that's how we spent the first 1 or 2 hours and talking to them about ourselves and where we come from and what are we trying to do, etc., etc. Last 10-15 minutes was all about their business. Then we used to, talk to them. So, when you break the ice in the first 2.5 hours, that's the most important. And you should be okay to spend that kind of time.
But how will you ensure that the other person is also okay to give you that much amount of time?
But that's your skill. When you're sitting, you should be able to garner that kind of interest, right? So if the other guy is bored in like half an hour, ki nahi, mere paas time nahi hai, jao. Then you realize that, matlab, ये ठीक नहीं गई conversation. So when you are able to convince the person who gave you an initial half an hour slot, when he sits with you for 2.5 hours, that means they're really interested.
Two things here. शुरुआत में जब आप ये काम आप कर रहे थे and then you started forming team, how did you ensure कि जिस passion के साथ आप sales कर रहे थे, जिस tricks को आप इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे, those same tricks?
So when initially you're going to meet clients, you take along, the new sales guy as your apprentice. And then when he sees you working so passionately with the clients, and when he sees you talking to the clients very, very passionately, they themselves develop that kind of passion. And then what they used to do is that after coming back, they used to sit together. Let's say 2 new sales guys used to sit together, and one used to behave like a promoter and one used to behave like a sales guy. And they used to just question each other and, play devil's advocate. मैं क्यों लूँ? मैं तो 30 साल से यहाँ बैठा हूँ. आप क्या कर लोगे हमारे लिए, etc., etc. So that actually gave them a lot of confidence, and that passion and it obviously passion comes from the top, from the founders, and that just percolated down.
OfBusiness is a great company. You managed to scale it at such a level profitably. But I'm sure बहुत सारे ऐसे challenges होते हैं, जैसे आपने credit और इस चीज़ को मिला दिया. उसके बाद लोगों ने खरीद भी लिया, and you analyze they have the capacity to pay you back and everything.
Correct.
But एक प्रॉब्लम आती है उगाई की, मतलब होता है ना, जब आप पैसे कैसे लोगे वापस दोबारा?
From the beginning, we didn't think of ourselves as lenders. We thought of ourselves as collectors. Our mindset was initially कि यार collect कर पाएंगे नहीं कर पाएंगे. ये सबसे पहले assessment करते थे. On ground sales person से लेकर everyone, you should just assess. या lending करने से पहले ये assess कर लो कि collections कर पाओगे नहीं कर पाओगे. Collections has to be the forefront.
How do you assess? Because किसी की capacity है, but intent नहीं है. How would you?
वही है. So दोनों चीजें हम judge करते थे. Ability to pay can be looked through the books. Right? Not only through the books. You go to the factory and you see actually workers काम कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे. तो अगर आप देख रहे हो कि वहाँ पे खाली है, workers ही 3-4 हैं, आवाज़ ही नहीं आ रही है ऑफिस में बैठ के, right? Then you know that कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ है. So एक ही है. Second, we used to have these mental frameworks ready कि अगर office is very swanky compared to the rest of the factory, etc. कुछ गड़बड़ है. Right? वो या फिर हमें clients बुलाते थे 5-star hotels.
फैक्ट्री नहीं बुलाते थे?
फैक्ट्री नहीं, 5-star होटल्स में वो कहते हैं वहाँ मीटिंग करते हैं, या कंसल्टेंट को ले आते थे. रेड फ्लैग्स.
व्हाई?
Couple of reasons, because they want to really impress you. Right? When the client is trying to impress you, कुछ गड़बड़ है.
What's wrong in impressing someone?
Client जब impress करना चाहे, क्योंकि उसको तो मटेरियल चाहिए ना उधार पे. So that means they really want you to believe in their story, right? And the client's like not trying to impress you at all. He's just normal and he's on his phone calls, etc. with his clients. वो कहता है 1 minute wait करो, he's attending phone calls. That actually used to be very positive from our side. कि उसके पास बहुत काम है and he's actually prioritizing his work over everything else. So that actually was very interesting.
60 crores a month. This is year 3. And this is all again coming from geographical expansion, figuring out a particular thing and going down deep into that.
Yeah.
कैसे आप how did you figure out कि यार पहले मैंने गुंटूर में करा, फिर मैंने दूसरी जगह में करा, फिर मैंने how were you expanding your geographies?
तो हम
Also tell us about the industries. How did it evolve from real estate? उसके बाद which all industries?
So real estate के साथ साथ हमने देखा यार infrastructure projects बहुत सारे चल रहे हैं, right? Because BJP had just come to power, then 2 साल हुए थे in 2016. So we said infrastructure projects बहुत, and BJP was very, very pro infrastructure, right? They had transformed the infrastructure segment. So we said बहुत ज़्यादा काम चल रहा है, and government delay करती है but पैसा दे देती है. So demonetization के बाद हमने कहा सिर्फ infrastructure पे focus करते हैं, because real estate का कोई भरोसा नहीं है. आज है कल नहीं है.
आप बना दिया नहीं बिक रहे.
फ्लैट नहीं बिका तो कहाँ से पैसे आएंगे वापस. So we realized this quite quickly कि हम collect कर नहीं पाएंगे. And we found a couple of real estate companies to be frauds. वो कहते हैं यार हमारे पास तो पैसे नहीं है, आप फ्लैट ले लो, और फ्लैट ले लो 22nd मंजिल पे, एंड बिल्डिंग बनी थी 10 मंजिल तक. like हवा में फ्लैट ले लो, उसका क्या करेंगे? Right? You can't even mortgage that out. You can't even recover money. You can't even get your cash flows right. So we then realized that real estate is not a sector that we want to be in. Maybe it's good for other NBFCs, but for us it's not good.
And what were other major sectors which led your growth?
Other sectors that are manufacturing, where they were manufacturing equipments, they were manufacturing boilers, etc., etc. So heavy manufacturing, heavy engineering companies, and general fabricators. जो कि मान लो ऑपरेशन थिएटर बना रहे थे, स्टील ले रहे थे, ऑपरेशन टेबल्स बना रहे थे या फिर सिंक्स बना रहे थे, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा.
छोटे छोटे लोग हैं, उनको ये फ़ायदा होता है कि यार आप उनको सस्ते में माल प्रोवाइड कर दोगे. जो बड़ा सप्लायर है उससे फ़ायदा हो जाता है कि यार
बिल्कुल
एक जने को ही दे दूंगा, मेरे को 100 जगहों से वो नहीं करना पड़ेगा. What were other things that these partners were getting benefits from you apart from that credit wala thing?
Yeah.
And how?
So they were able to source multiple SKUs at the same time. My clients were able to source multiple SKUs at the same time. उसको अगर शीट चाहिए थी 0.5 mm से लेकर 1 mm से लेकर 1.5 mm, और उसको अगर एंगल चैनल बीम्स ही चाहिए शीट्स के साथ साथ. So they were very happy going to one person instead of 5 different suppliers. They were like कि OfBusiness सब कुछ कर देगा तो हम इनके पास चले जाते हैं. So that was the huge benefit. And multi-brand. Normally a distributor keeps one brand, one SKU. We used to keep multi-brand, multi-SKUs. So उसको बहुत ज़्यादा फायदा हुआ कि यार इनके पास तो सारा ब्रांड मिल जाते हैं, इनके पास अनब्रांडेड भी मिल जाता है, इनके पास सारे SKUs मिल जाते हैं, तो मेरे को कहीं और जाने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. So that was one of the major benefits that we had.
पूरे business में, if you understand this is pretty operationally heavy business.
That's right.
Where you have to take on orders, then then have to work with coordinate with the suppliers.
But that's what tech did for us, right?
How did you implement tech in this
So
operationally?
tech obviously followed business. So business आके orders वगैरह ले आता था, and then tech used to figure out कि यार ऐसे ऐसे process flow चल रहा है, इसको ऐसे ऐसे efficient बनाते हैं. So one thing that really helped us was not relying on external CRMs or ERPs. And
Created your own?
Created our own. No, that helped us customize everything to our requirement. That's what we did.
Tell us certain things about the technology that helped you scale this again. क्योंकि इतना service-based business को how will you scale to this level without some tech place? What were other things that you were able to do in order to achieve that level of skill?
So now as well, including now?
Including now.
Yeah. So what we managed to figure out is that listen, सिर्फ उन्हीं clients को जो आपके साथ transact कर रहे हैं, interact करना is not enough. वो जो clients हैं जो आपके साथ नहीं करना चाहते, उनके साथ भी interact करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि वो आज ना कल आपके clients बनेंगे. So that's something that we figured out a bit later.
And how will you interact with those folks?
By engaging with them, by giving them something for free. So आपको अगर आप SME हो, तो आपको क्या चाहिए? आपको मटेरियल चाहिए, आप उसके प्राइसेस रोज देख रहे हो, मार्केट ऊपर गई, नीचे गई, मार्केट कहाँ है, अभी खरीदूँ, एक हफ्ते बाद खरीदूँ, 2 हफ्ते बाद खरीदूँ. So we started giving insights and started giving prices for free.
आज भी if you see OfBusiness website तो 500 commodities के pricing it's live for free.
Yeah. So we give them all for free. Yeah, to our clients and potential clients or clients that earlier did not want to buy from us. सबको देते हैं access, right? So at some point of time they would want to be our clients. That's the idea.
Steel से how did you end up figuring other commodities? How did you scale?
So again steel के बाद हमने सोचा यार ये तो copy paste model है, ये तो बाकी supply chains में भी हो सकता है, तो हमने polymer से start किया. फिर हम non ferrous में गए, फिर agri खोला हमने, फिर हमने कहा chemicals में भी करते हैं, फिर हमने कहा थोड़ा textiles में भी देख लेते हैं. तो we are in 7 supply chains now. So it was a copy paste model.
और सब स्टील आपने 2019 तक जब आप बोल रहे हो it's 60 crore
100 के आसपास पहुंच गए थे हम.
और उसके बाद then you started applying it to
other areas, yeah. And now we are doing like last year mota moti we closed a turnover of 23,000-24,000 crores. Yeah.
इसमें से if you break down 7 different उसमें से
steel is about 25-30% for us, right? Agri is about 15% out for us.
ये जो 7 चीजें आपने बताई, does it have any relation with the growth of the country?
So yeah, these are all the largest sectors of the country. Yeah, agri, we are an agrarian economy. Steel, we are known for steel. We are the largest consumers of steel in the world. If we pick the 7 largest sectors, इससे ज़्यादा बड़े sectors नहीं. Petrochemical से बड़ा sector कौन सा है? And then there is chemicals, right? Chemicals से आपके बहुत कुछ चीज़ें बनती है. आपका methanol, ethanol, ये सब कुछ बनता है, right? So that's also a massive sector in India. And then we picked up textiles. Again, India is known for textiles, so we picked up that sector as well. Yeah, that's
textile में basic you are. There are other models. As for example, textile में there is this company called Yarn Bazaar.
Yeah.
How different or how close?
No, so earlier we started with yarn. Yeah, we started supplying yarn to fabric manufacturers. And then we realized very quickly that the play in this market is in garments. Because rest of the market does not have that kind of margins. And yarn में rejections वगैरह बहुत होती हैं. Right? So we knew where to fail fast, and then we stopped the yarn business slightly, and then we got into garments. So garments is started where we saw a large amount of profit pools.
Now we understand. Here, आपने same playbook. We'll also deep digger into the playbook that you created from steel and then applied it to other businesses. How did you create a moat in your business? कि यार जो काम आज मैं कर रहा हूँ वो कल कोई और सेम चीज खड़ी करेगा.
सिंपल है यार, आप सेल के साथ जाके टाई अप करने की कोशिश करोगे 2 या 3 साल लगेंगे. कर लो, मार्केट इज बिग इनफ फॉर 2 or 3 players to exist at the same time, doesn't matter. कर लो, एक क्लाइंट को हमेशा ही क्रेडिट चाहिए होगा ग्रोथ के लिए. हम भी कितना, we'll take a certain wallet share, right? We won't get exposure to 100% of the client as well. We don't want to do that as well.
Why?
Because then you're concentrating your risk.
एक क्लाइंट के ऊपर.
हाँ, right? क्लाइंट का 100% wallet share आपको नहीं चाहिए. You can only take so much exposure on the client.
जितना you can afford to.
नहीं, जितना 20% of this purchase is only you want to fund and supply. You don't want to do the remaining 80% because then it becomes scary, right? Because in the credit, you don't want to do 100% of everything, right? So credit is about diversifying. Credit is also letting the client diversify his lenders, because अगर एक ही lender कर रहा है और कोई lender है ही नहीं, इसका मतलब कुछ ना कुछ गलत है. If you ask money from 15 friends and only one friend is lending you money, his entire money, and no other client is not ready to lend you money, although you want money, कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ है.
Let's talk about the playbook. आपने जो स्टील के साथ वो करा, स्टील का आपने पूरा कैटेगरी क्रिएट करा, उसके बाद जैसे पॉलीमर पकड़ा, if you had to do with ferrous items, what was the first thing that you did when you know कि यार अब सेम चीज़ मुझे let's say पॉलीमर में लगाना है? How did you end up कि यार यहाँ पर इसके सप्लायर्स हैं, वो कहाँ से आपने डेटा देखा? How did you get?
तो भाई है ना, स्टील की प्लेबुक फॉलो कर ली.
Help us walk through that playbook.
सो सिंपल है. स्टील में हमने क्या किया था, वी वेंट थ्रू कॉन्टैक्ट्स टू अप्रोच अ फ्यू क्लाइंट्स, वहाँ से डिमांड जनरेट करी, सप्लाई फाइंड आउट करी, स्टार्टेड सप्लाइंग ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, एग्रीगेटेड डिमांड. दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट वी डिड इन पॉलीमर्स. नेटवर्क के थ्रू गए हम पॉलीमर क्लाइंट्स के पास, उनसे डिमांड जनरेट करी, हाथ पाँव हिला लू के पता नहीं कुछ भी करके हमने डिमांड जनरेट करी, स्टार्टेड सप्लाइंग, स्टार्टेड एग्रीगेटिंग डिमांड फ्रॉम अक्रॉस द क्लाइंट्स. दैट्स हाउ वी बिगैन. वी वर डिमांड बैकवर्ड्स. We were not supply forwards.
Why?
क्योंकि सप्लाई फॉरवर्ड बन जाओगे, फिर डिमांड करोगे तो सप्लायर आपको भाव नहीं देगा. आप सप्लायर को जाके कहोगे यार मैं तेरा माल बिकवाता हूँ, मैं तेरा माल बिकवाता हूँ, तू मुझे रेडी रख. जब तक आप उसको कोई ऑर्डर नहीं दोगे, ही विल नॉट ट्रस्ट यू. बट डिमांड के अंदर वो डिमांड में आप डिमांड जनरेट करोगे, मैं नहीं फुलफिल कर रहा हूँ, कोई और फुलफिल कर लेगा. तो वी हैव अ रेडी डिमांड फ्रॉम क्लाइंट्स बिकॉज दे वांट टू बाय एवरी नाउ एंड देन, राइट? एंड देन जैसे ही आप सप्लायर को कहते हो यार तेरा ऑर्डर कंफर्म्ड है, ही बिकम्स एक्साइटेड. The supplier becomes very excited.
Because in other, for example, Ola, Uber का जब था तो they created supply first. So पहले they signed up drivers in the market and they asked them to hold back.
Exactly, because आप अगर कंज्यूमर मार्केट में हो और कंज्यूमर के लिए कोई प्रोडक्ट रेडी नहीं रख रहे हो, तो कंज्यूमर मार्केट में बड़ा डिफरेंट चलता है. B2B मार्केट में बड़ा डिफरेंट चलता है.
Walk us through that mindset of growth and profit hand in hand.
So we were very clear from day one that listen, profit should be able to sustain us, not investor money, right? So we were very clear that हम यार बर्न नहीं करेंगे. बर्न का धंधा हमें समझ नहीं आता. बाकी स्टार्टअप्स को करने दो बर्न, हम नहीं कर सकते, हमें समझ ही नहीं आता. हमारी जेब से एक पैसा अगर जा रहा है तो हमें दर्द हो रहा है. तो that's how we began and that's how we sort of thinking about profits.
What was some certain blunders that you made in your initial journey जिससे आपको major setback था, major learning curve था?
या तो इनिशियल इन्वेस्टर्स ने कहा आप क्या प्रॉफिट के बारे में सोच रहे हो, सिर्फ ग्रोथ करो, प्रॉफिट बाद में देखोगे, ठीक है, देखना. सो सम ऑफ द फ्यू इन्वेस्टर्स रिजेक्टेड अस ऑन दैट बेसिस एंड वी वर लाइक ओके, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. बट दे वर नॉट ब्लंडर्स, दे वर लाइक ठीक है, हम वी विल स्टिक टू आवर गन्स. सो दैट्स हाउ इट हैपेंड.
और व्हाट वर सम ऑन ग्राउंड मिस्टेक्स दैट यू मेड?
ऑन ग्राउंड मिस्टेक्स तो बहुत सारी थी यार. आई कांट रिकॉल 1 or 2. सो वन वाज दैट हमने सोचा हम फर्नीचर मार्केट में भी घुसेंगे, हम फर्नीचर लेके आएंगे, चाहे इंडिया से लेके आए चाहे चाइना से लेके आए, उसको ऑनलाइन डालेंगे, लोग आके खरीद लेंगे हमसे. बट फर्नीचर मार्केट इज अ मार्केट विच डज नॉट ऑपरेट ऑन वाइट मनी. इट ऑपरेट्स लार्जली ऑन ब्लैक मनी. कैश में डीलिंग होती है.
ये तो सेम चीज़ बाकी स्टील में भी होती है, उसमें भी होती
नहीं होती. बिकॉज व्हेन यू डीलिंग विद इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर गाय हैज टू बिल्ड टू द गवर्नमेंट. इट्स नॉट रियल एस्टेट. रियल एस्टेट में कैश में डीलिंग होती है, बट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर्सन हैज टू बिल्ड टू द गवर्नमेंट. गवर्नमेंट is by definition white, right? Government will accept bills and government will pay them in white. And same, तो जो बंदा है वो अपने suppliers को भी white में देगा. So they, because if they don't purchase invite, then GST की trail नहीं होगी ना, the government will reject all the bills. So along with the main bills, they have to supply the supply bills also कि हमने खरीदा है.
How do you figure out आज जो 7 chains हैं, what is going to be the 8th chain in this business?
So more than the 8th, now we want to go deeper into these 7 chains because we picked the top 7 chains. Right. हमें पता है कि ये top 7 chains ही हैं जिसमें maximum amount of GDP contribution है and इन्हीं में concentrate करते हैं. तो हम इसमें ही घुस रहे हैं deep.
How did you figure out कि यार अब हमको fundraising नहीं करनी है? We'll give our debt out. And how was the understanding there?
कि हमें fundraising नहीं करनी है.
हाँ.
No, so हम fundraising तो constant fundraising करनी है because growth के लिए हमें required था बहुत ज़्यादा. Right? So we were not fundraising to cover our burn and losses. We were fundraising to grow. So we have raised till now about close to $800 something million, and that's only to grow, right? And never to cover up a burn because we were never sort of burning.
And how do you use these this money in order to grow?
So what we figured out is that this, where you're aggregating in certain supply chains, why can't you backward integrating into acquiring a manufacturing plant, right? And then control the supply chain even more. So to enhance your margins. So that actually, for that we needed equity money, and that experimentation really worked out well for us.
Steel में ही करा आपने?
हमने सारी supply chains में किया.
So you own a steel manufacturing
Yeah,
plant
that's
as well?
right. That's right. We own 3.
आपने शुरुआत से खुद बनाया या acquired?
We acquired.
खुद क्यों नहीं बनाया acquire क्यों कर?
खुद इसलिए नहीं बनाया because manufacturing and aggregation are very different things. So we wanted to acquire a profitable plant so that we could run it profitably as well going forward and enhance the efficiency and the profitability. We didn't want to, because जैसे आप scratch से बनाते हो ना 50 mistakes होती हैं, right? And then there's a learning curve. 3 साल के बाद आप जाके profitable होते हो या 4 साल के बाद होते हो. हमें वो wait नहीं करना था. So we were ready to pay a certain amount to, not a premium I would say, because we were very hard negotiators. So we were not ready to pay a premium as well, but we were ready to pay the right price to acquire that asset.
You mentioned you were very hard negotiators.
Yeah.
And you were ready to pay the right price.
Simple है यार, एक कोई अगर typical आप मारवाड़ी या बनिया mindset दे लो, right? So if they want to go and purchase, they will squeeze every value out of it.
How do you do that?
It's just inherent in our DNA.
Walk me through that, break that thing. If you are to purchase something and you don't want to pay a premium for it, how will you do that? Walk me through that deal.
No, it's about showing the other person also what's valuable for them as well, right? And it's about just generally assigning a certain value and sticking to your guns no matter what, right? And then just being at it. So it just happens, yeah. And you need to be good sales guys and you need to be good negotiators at the same time. We were just inherently good at it. Our DNA में था. Good negotiation, good sales. That's how we built the company as well.
If you have to break down good sales, how will you do that?
Yeah, good sales, I gave you the answer earlier as well. Try and spend a lot of time with the client, not just on the product that you're selling.
How are you going about the IPO of the business?
So IPO, it's a dream for everyone, and IPO will happen very shortly. It may take 1 year, it may take 1.5 years, it may take slightly longer, but it will definitely happen because all of us are passionate about seeing our ticker on the stock market.
This year you reported around 700 crores of.
No, we will be. So that's something that we will be reporting. Yeah. Close to that.
आपके दिमाग में कब आया कि यार अब this is the right time to do the IPO, and what were some stages? How did you figure out the first thing, second thing, third?
See, IPO is, I think every company that starts off aspires to go IPO so that it can, one, have more number of investors that believe in them,
Right.
and generate value for your initial set of investors as well. And generally, it gives you a lot more depth into the market, right? Just generally, you get known by a lot of people, and that's very important, right? So IPO हमें करना था, ये तो पक्का था, and then now we are preparing for the IPO. So we are trying to work on each and every metric of ours to get that best in class and best in.
What are those metrics which are really, really important for a company?
So obviously there is the growth metric, there is the EBITDA metric, there is the PBT metric, which is very, very important. Then there is the working capital metric, so these are the main metrics that we work on.
And how is the process of filing for an IPO? What's the playbook that you are following? So, for example, as a promoter, you want to do an IPO of your company. Do you go and talk to other people who have done
this? I will be able to answer once we go a successful IPO. Okay. Right now, we are also learning.
Okay. How are you learning through that?
So we're learning by talking to people, by talking to a lot of investment bankers, by talking to a lot of street, talking to a lot of mutual funds. So we're learning on the ground.
Perfect.
So I don't have a playbook.
शुरुआत में आपने बात बोली थी कि you're a sales guy, and शुरुआत में आपको जिन्होंने convince करा था that was Ashish, and you mentioned that he was a very very charismatic personality. If you have to break the charisma of Ashish, how will you do that?
I think he understands you very deeply, and then he interacts with you at that particular level. He'll be able to impress the MD, and even with the clerk, he'll be able to impress the clerk. That's the skill that I picked up from him.
बहुत सारे young लोग they try to find white spaces जहाँ पर they can build a scalable, a bigger business.
Yeah.
You are in this market for for so many years, and you have spent talking to so many folks. Tell us certain white spaces that you clearly see जहाँ पर people can build
In our business or?
around your business, around your observations.
Yeah, so I think manufacturing for the world is going to be a good theme, and renewable energy and clean tech is going to be another theme. Right, so that's something that's a place where a lot of manufacturing is going to happen. That's what I feel is going to be the next white space.
You haven't picked up the clean energy.
So we're still evaluating. It's still early days. So we're still evaluating that particular space. हम हमेशा distribution led है. हमने अगर कोई distribution बनाई तो उसके बाद हम backward integrate करके manufacturing में जाएंगे उस particular distribution या supply chain की. Right. So clean tech and renew tech is very early right now for us. So first we'll build the distribution and then only go into manufacturing.
Got it. We are at the end of the thing.
Yeah.
We have a rapid fire round. We'll ask you a bunch of questions.
And please go for it.
ठीक है, perfect. Do you use AI tools?
A lot. I build AI tools myself as well.
Which ones?
I code as well. So I've fine-tuned my own models to build for my clients. Yeah.
What does the model do?
आप कोई भी लैंग्वेज में उससे कोई भी प्राइस पूछ सकते हो कोई कमोडिटी का किसी भी प्लेस में. So it'll be able to tell you the price. अब वो जो शक्कर का भाव मराठवाड़ा में रीजन में बताओ. It'll be able to tell you. Right. So those are the tools that I built. It's going to interact with you in a natural language in the commodity space.
One challenge in business or life that you're facing right now?
Yeah, it's about balancing your personal life versus your professional life. I think that's the continuous challenge for an entrepreneur.
If you talk particularly about business, what's the challenge that you're facing at this point in time?
In business, if we reached a decent amount of scale, how do you keep growing at the same rate you were growing 3 years back? That's the challenge.
Because you're kind of hitting the...
No, we're not hitting the ceiling, but growing at 30% when you're at 23 or 24,000 crore turnover versus growing 30% there versus growing 30% when you're 3,000 crore turnover, world of a difference. Hell of a difference. So that's what we are trying to figure out. How do you grow at the same level?
Is it possible?
Of course it's possible. The Reliance is sitting at lakhs of crores of turnover, right? Of course it's possible. It's about how do you grow fast.
Do you think somebody can replicate the same?
Well, there's barrier to entry is quite high. So you need a strong amount of capital. And plus the barrier to entry is that suppliers को कैसे लेके आओगे आप? इतना आसान नहीं है ना. 2-3 साल का मतलब gestation period होता है. How do you get suppliers on your platform? So it's not easy. So we cracked that code.
Got it. What was the lowest moment in your life?
Lowest moment ऐसा होता नहीं है. मतलब it's like ठीक है lows आते हैं काफी सारे. Very difficult to pinpoint a lowest moment, to be very honest with you.
What was the best advice that you received?
I think just show up and be persistent.
Who gave you this best advice?
I think me to myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very important. When I used to just not feel like turning up, I just said, just show up. Just be persistent. Things will improve.
Which is your favorite listed company?
A little controversial, but Reliance. They're very nimble. I wouldn't say controversial actually. That's a wrong word to use. But I just love the way they're nimble and they're growing at the speed of a startup. Brilliant.
Have you tried to crack that? How are they able to do that?
No, exactly. I mean, they take big bets and they really stick by the bets. Yeah, and Bajaj Finance. I think that's also a brilliant company to learn from.
Favorite unlisted company?
Favorite unlisted company? Difficult to say. I would say OfBusiness.
Okay. Yeah. But it will be listed soon, na?
That doesn't matter. It's still unlisted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you read books?
Yeah, a lot.
Tell us some books that you have read recently.
There's a book called The Cold Start Problem. There's a book called 0 to 1. Peter Thiel ki. Yeah, there's a book called Mental Game of Poker, which teaches you not only poker concepts, it teaches you just how to think in business, how to create mental models in your mind. There's this book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. Fantastic. Fantastic book. So these are some of the books that have really inspired.
What was the movie जो आपने recently कभी पहले देखी थी that had some impact on you that you enjoyed thoroughly?
Yeah, I think it was Laksh. It's brilliant. It just gave me goosebumps, and that showed me that even if you're down and out, if you just put your mind to it, you can just rise up to be at the top.
Got it. And do you travel? Do you like to travel?
Yeah, used to. Now I don't get too much time to travel.
What are your favorite places?
So I think it was Italy is my best place. Right? It's amazing. It's like food bhi hai wahan pe. Then you got ruins here, and then you got a modern building here, and then you got volcanoes and so and so. I just love the place. It's got so much to offer.
What's the best food that you have ever had?
Pizza in Italy. It's cliched, but for sure. So it's called Napoli, but it's quattro formaggi. Okay. 4 cheese pizza. I'm not kidding you. I was there for a week. I had that every single day.
Things that you derive pleasure from.
Yeah, just helping others succeed. Yeah, it's important for me that, people working with me, etc., they become more successful than me.
How do you ensure that?
Yeah, so, you have to step aside for their growth sometimes. So, when you build businesses, you have to step aside so that they can grow in your role.
How do you do that?
I think it just comes from within. Some people are not ready to do that, but you have to actively think about others before you think about yourself.
It's the form of delegation you're talking about?
No, they have to just take your role so that you can be free to do other value addition stuff.
If you have to define your skill set, what's your skill set?
My skill set is painting on a blank canvas, figuring out what to paint and how to paint, and creating magic.
If someone young who has to learn the skill set, how would you advise him or her to learn this?
Be okay with ambiguity. Learn how to deal with ambiguity and plethora of information. Just learn how to deal with it. अपने आप हो जाएगा.
What was the last extremely ambiguous situation that you were a part of?
Yeah, every new thing that we started here was ambiguous. कुछ पता ही नहीं होता क्या करना है.
When was the last time you felt lucky?
I feel lucky every single day, to be very honest.
If you have to make one prediction about future, what that prediction would be?
People are underestimating what AI brings onto the table. Underestimating. Still, I think those people who are thinking that they need not upskill now are going to be left so far behind, it's not even funny. You have to start upskilling now, and you have to constantly upskill yourself every single day.
How to do that?
Just read about a lot of stuff and just keep adding skills. Not only about AI, read about a lot of skills. Upskill yourself.
What's on your bucket list?
कभी बनाई नहीं.
There might be something.
Not really, no.
How did you meet the most important person in your life?
Well, that's my wife, clearly.
How did you meet her?
I was about to graduate from IIT and she was coming in for a PhD. Yeah, so that's how we met.
You were just graduating और वो PhD department ही
No, हम स्कूल में स्कूल में साथ थे, but we didn't know each other.
Okay.
We had never spoken to each other, and then she just recognized me one day in IIT, and then she came up to me, and that's how we started speaking, and now we're together.
Do you have a kid?
We just had a kid 14 days back.
Lovely, lovely. What is one thing that you want your child to learn from you?
Everything I know. Everything. I have everything clear in my head, what I want to teach my child and how I want to teach my child. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot.
Who are some people that you, whenever meet, you learn a lot of things from them?
Yeah, so all young startup founders. Yeah, so humongous amount of energy and a lot they have to offer. Yeah, so that's why I love spending time with them.
Any favorite young startup or a founder that whenever you meet, you love learning from?
Yeah, so there's a founder by the name of Vishesh. I think he's a founder of Shiprocket. I love spending time with him.
Vishesh Khurana.
Yeah. His energy, his charisma, fantastic.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Really grateful.